Now, let's talk about how you figure out which loan types you have. There are two primary ways to do this. You can either call the Federal Student Aid Call Center at 1-800-433-3243, or you can log into your account on studentaid.gov. We're going to walk through, for most folks, it's going to be much faster to log in on studentaid.gov because there will be call center wait times if you call the number. So we're going to walk through what you need to look at on your account on studentaid.gov together. As we just heard, this session is being recorded, so you'll be able to reflect back on this recording to figure out what types of student loans you have, what types of federal student loans you have. All right, so first things first, the magical website today is studentaid.gov. There is a whole bunch of information on this website. It is incredibly useful. But today we're going to be talking about how you can log into your own account. And your account will reflect all of the federal student loans that you have borrowed. So you're going to click log in. It's going to be right there when you go to studentaid.gov. And then it's going to ask you to log in. If you've never set up an account, that's okay. You can create an account. If you set up an account and you've forgotten your username or your password, that's okay. I forget my password almost every time, and sometimes I forget my username. No big deal. You would just click the buttons below. It would send you to get a code. You'll have to put in personal information, your date of birth, the last four of your social security number, and then it resets it, and it's not a big deal. And if all of this fails, you can go down to help me log into my account, or you can call Student Aid for assistance on how to log in to your account. When you log in, there's a two-step verification. And so you're going to have to confirm that you are you by responding to the Department of Education with the code that they send you. So you can do that either by text message, or you can do it via email verification. Pretty easy too. And you'll see the email and the last four digits of the either phone number that you provided or the email that you provided. So you can see if you need to log into an old email. Then this pop-up will come up. And what this essentially says is that you are you. No one else should be logging into your studentaid.gov account except for you. And so you can say accept and move on. And just remember, again, nobody should be asking for this information. Nobody should be logging in on your behalf except for you. Then you're going to go to your student loan dashboard. This is the first place where you start to see your student loan information. This is a summary of your cumulative amount of loans, the amount of principal and interest that's accrued. So this is the first page, and then you can also see upcoming payments, loan servicers, et cetera, but we're going to talk about that more in just a sec. So when you arrive here, you're going to click on View Details on your dashboard, because this is going to start breaking down the types of student loans that you have. When you click View Details, it's going to take you to the My Aid page, and you can see that this person has 17 loans. When you scroll down on the screen, you'll see the loan breakdown, and this is where things get really exciting. The loan breakdown page will show you the loan servicers that you have for different loans. The thing that you need to know, though, is that if you attended school at different periods of time, or if you have loans for your own education, and then later you took out a Parent Plus loan, you might have multiple federal student loan servicers that are servicing your federal loan. So don't be surprised if you have multiple blue boxes here where you have outstanding debt. In addition, it'll show you the outstanding debt that each servicer is processing. But we're still not to the types of student loans yet. It's a little bit complicated to get here, so bear with me. Now you're going to click View Loans to view your student loan types. And then you're going to get another breakdown. And here we have unsubsidized loan, Graduate Plus loan. We have some details, but not all of the details. But I just want to point out here that you can see the loan status of each of your loans. You can see if you're in a repayment plan, including the income-driven repayment plans that we'll be talking about more in a subsequent session. You can see the interest rate and the total balance of that particular loan. The other thing I would note is that many people have multiple loans for the same period of attendance. So don't be surprised if you have 10 loans for your undergraduate education. That's not uncommon. But again, we're not to the true breakdown of each loan type. So now you're going to click View Loan Details. Now, here we are. You can see the loan type just of that particular loan. Ta-da! So this one is a direct unsubsidized loan. So if I were you, I would write this down on a piece of paper if you have multiple loans, because you're going to need to repeat this for each loan under each servicer. So we did unsubsidized loan, but now this person would need to go through and do the same thing and view the loan details for their Graduate Plus loan, each Graduate Plus loan that's listed. But not just that, you also need to go through all the loans for each of your loan servicers, because again, you could have multiple federal student loan servicers. They won't all be serviced by the same company if you attended at different periods of time, if you have different loan types, or if you borrowed for your own education and for your child's education. Okay, that was a lot. So I wanted to dive into student loan status because there are multiple student loan statuses that you should be aware of here. Depending on your situation, your loans could be in repayment, like we saw previously. They could be in a 6-month grace period if you recently left school. They could be in a deferment or a forbearance, two tools that people can use to delay their payments. However, interest will still accrue most of the time on either one of those options. Your loans could be delinquent, meaning you haven't made a payment in a while, or if you haven't made a payment in 270 days, your loan could be in default. And again, you can find the status of your loan on studentaid.gov. And the thing I want to zoom in on here is what happens when your loans are in default, because you're going to need to take action quickly within the next year to get those loans out of default using the Fresh Start program, which we've talked about in subsequent sessions. And I believe we will touch on in future sessions as well. If you have loans in default, you'll see this red banner that appears at the top of your My Aid page. And then you'll also see, as you click on each loan, so when you do the loan breakdown by servicer, you'll also see that you have loans in default for that servicer. So you'll see it'll come up on studentaid.gov if you have loans in default. And here's another example. You want to watch out for the red. If you see red in your account, then you need to know that your loans are in default and you need to take additional steps. All right. Whew. Turning it back over to you, Anna.
Yeah, so next we're going to talk about how to find out who your loan holder is. And this is probably where people, I think, get really tripped up. They don't really understand the difference between a loan holder and a loan servicer. Well, the loan holder is the company that owns your loan. So there are a few basic things. So for direct loans, if you have direct loans, all of those are going to be held by the Department of Education. There are basically two different types of loan holders. There are loans that are held by the Department of Education and loans that are held either by a guarantee agency or a private lender. So when we're thinking about loan holders, we really are talking about, is your loan held by the Department of Education or some other institution like a guarantee agency or a private lender? Now for FFEL loans, you can either have FFEL loans that are held by the Department of Education or one of these other entities, a guarantee agency or a private lender. But finally, you can have also these weird loans called Perkins loans. They're not issued anymore. These are older types of federal student loans, but they can be held also either by the Department of Education or by a school. So these are loans that were initially given out by schools directly. So if you have a loan that is held by a school, a college or university, it is likely that it is a Perkins loan. And so you really need to know whether or not your loan is held by the Department of Education, by a guarantee agency or a private lender, or by a school. And if you can tell who your loan holder is, then you'll be in a good position to take the next steps for managing your loans. because if your loan is held by the Department of Education, you may be eligible for more relief and more types of relief than if your loan is held by another entity. Now, the good news is that you can make your loan be held by the Department of Education if it is not currently held by the Department of Education through consolidation. We're going to be talking about that tomorrow. So if you find that you have one of these loans out there that is not held by the federal government, not held by the Department of Education, there are ways that you can still make yourself eligible for those other types of relief through consolidation. We'll go over that tomorrow. So if you want to figure out if your loan is held by the Department of Education or some other entity, really, we're going to go back to studentaid.gov. And so if you go on your loan holder page, the loan breakdown, this is by clicking on the My Aid /dashboard and going onto the loan breakdown page, as Kira just explained a few slides ago. Here you will once again see this loan breakdown here that includes a list of all of the federal student loans you have. And through this list, you'll actually see in these little boxes that the loans are serviced by, and then you'll see different company names. Once you are there, you can actually see, it's a little complicated. They don't actually say your loan holder is this. You actually have to look at those little individual boxes, and it's going to depend on what the name of the loan servicer starts with. That's how you can tell if your loan is held by the federal government. If the name of the loan servicer in that box starts with either Department of Ed or Default Management Collection System, then you will know that that is a loan that is held by the federal government. So you can see here in the bottom box, it's Department of Ed /MOHELA. So Department of Ed, because it starts with that, we know that that loan is held by the federal government. And MOHELA, what comes after the slash there, that is actually the loan servicer. So if the name of the loan servicer starts with a company's name or a school's name, then that loan is not held by the federal government. It's not a Department of Education held loan. So in the second box from the top, you can see that the name of the servicer starts with Wells Fargo Bank. That tells us that this is a loan that is not held by the Department of Education. The loan holder is actually going to be a private or commercial lender. So it's a little bit confusing, and there's unfortunately just not a straightforward, easy way to see this, but we've got another example here just to show you zoomed in what it's going to look like if you have a Department of Education held loan. And then in the next slide, you can also see what it looks like if it is owned by a private lender. Now, just again, to clarify, not only are you going to see Department of Ed, but if you also see Default Management Collection System, that is also a Department of Education held loan, but that means that your loan is in default, and that is why it starts with that. So you're going to want to take steps to deal with that there. Okay, so we know who your loan holder is. And again, very important in terms of what type of relief you're going to be eligible for. So you need to know that. But you also need to know who your loan servicers are. Now, how these companies are different from loan holders is that while the loan holder actually owns the loan servicer is the company that manages your loans. So these are the companies that you're actually going to be interacting with directly when you're dealing with your student loan repayment and your student loan relief options. These are the companies that you make your payments to. They're the companies that you call when you have questions or issues about your student loans. And they're really just the ones that you're going to be dealing with on a daily basis. Now, the federal government uses different companies to service student loans. Now, some of these companies, what's really confusing is that they also service private student loans. So you may have a student loan servicer that is managing your federal student loans, but you may also have a private student loan that is issued directly by that company. Navient is a big example of this. So if you have Navient as your student loan servicer, that might be something where you've had a private student loan with them in the past, and you may also have a federal student loan. So loan servicers, these companies, they change a lot. And that's because the Department of Education contracts with these companies on a limited basis, and then they renew the contracts every so often. And these companies actually changed a lot over the last few years. So the current federal student loan servicers for Department of Education held loans, we have the list of them here. So we have Ed Financial, MOHELA, AidVantage, Nelnet, OSLA, ECSI, and the Default Resolution Group. So if you do not recognize these loan servicers, it's likely that your loan servicer changed during the pandemic payment pause. You may have had Navient or Great Lakes or Fed Loan Servicing. Those were federal student loan servicers at one point in time, but those companies have exited the program, and now your loans have probably been transferred to one of these new companies. So you really need to know who is servicing your loan now, because you want to make sure they have your information, that you have an account set up with them so that you can make sure that you make your payments correctly and accurately, and also so that you get important notices from them about your student loan repayments going forward. So you can figure out on studentaid.gov who your loan servicer is. Again, just like we were doing with the couple pages before on figuring out who your loan holder is, if you go to your dashboard in My Aid, you click on My Loan Servicers, View Servicer Details, and you can actually get that information. So here is what happens when you click on the View Servicer Details page. You will be brought to the page that lists all of the federal student loan servicers that you have. Now, it is possible that you have multiple different student loan servicers, and that's because you may have gone to school at different periods of time, and those loans, when they went into repayment, they were assigned to a different servicer. So you could be dealing with multiple loan servicers. But if you've consolidated your loans at some point, you may have one student loan servicer, or if you just went to school at one period of time, you may only have one servicer. And we want to make sure that folks know about this, because that means it's going to get a bit tricky to sort of manage who you're making your payments to and making sure that you have all the accurate information. So on this page, you can see the loan servicer, but you can also see their contact info, which is very important to know about. And if you have questions, you can reach out to them directly using this information. So, okay, now we have sort of gone over your student loan servicer, your student loan holder, your loan status, your loan type. You've figured out all that information. Now, what do you do with it? Well, once you have that information, now you can make plans for returning to repayment. You can pick a payment plan that's right for you. It might be an income-driven repayment plan like the New Save plan, or it might be the standard plan. It really depends on what your student loan goals are and what your own financial situation is. You can also use that information to see if you're eligible for loan forgiveness or cancellation right now. Despite what happened at the Supreme Court in June, there are actually a number of student loan forgiveness and cancellation programs that still exist that you might still be able to take advantage of. So once you have your loan information, you can look into those steps as well. If you have found when you're checking out your loan information, you see that your student loan's in default, you can actually take steps now to get a fresh start on those student loans by getting them out of default quickly and easily. And again, we'll talk about that more tomorrow. You will also be able, if you figure out that you have a loan that is not held by the Department of Education and you want to make sure that you can get the relief that those Department of Education held loans are eligible for, you can decide whether or not consolidating your loan is right for you. So once you have all this information, you can then assess whether or not you need to take these additional steps that we're going to go into more detail tomorrow. So if you have the ability and you're joining us tomorrow or Thursday, log into studentaid.gov and see if you can get this information now, because it will really be helpful in terms of figuring out your next steps. So again, we have 2 more webinars this week coming up that will be talking about all these issues we listed today. Tomorrow's webinar will be on returning to repayment and how you can get ready for that and take advantage of other relief options that are out there. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about lowering your payments and getting closer to loan cancellation with income-driven repayment. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, definitely join us for Thursday as well. So with that, I just want to end by saying that if you have further questions, we do have all this information on our website, studentloanborrowerassistance.org. There's a lot of explanations available on this site about what your different loan types are, who your loan holder is, and figuring this stuff out. So if you can't join us tomorrow or Thursday, you can also go to our website and get some tips for returning to repayment there. So with that, I want to turn it back over to the folks at AARP to talk about sharing your thoughts with us on this session.
All right. Thank you so much, Anna and Kira. It was such a great download to hear everything related to student loans and what the next steps are. I know it's extremely overwhelming. And so at the foundation, we have organized a 3-part series. And like Anna mentioned, we would have another webinar hosting tomorrow, same time, same link. I am also posting the link to sign up for the webinar tomorrow as well as day after. Feel free to press the date that on the right side, you would be able to access the tickets and hit the date that you would be able to attend. Tomorrow, we would be talking more specifics about how to return to repayments. So if you are able to join us and would still have questions that need answers, please feel free to join us. And before I close out, I would also really be interested in hearing from you how we did at the webinar. What are some other questions or other topics you would like for us to touch? And how was your experience overall? This really helps us kind of enhance our experience for all student loan borrowers out there. So please feel free to hit record. I've attached a link in the chat as well, and you would be able to kind of go there, press listen to the recording, record a reply, leave us a voice note or a voice message, and somebody from the team would definitely be there with their ears to listen in. So once again, thank you so much, Kira and Anna, and NCLC folks overall for helping us navigate student loan debt.
Thank you. And with that, I just want to close out by saying, if you can't join us tomorrow, again, please feel free to check out our website if you have lingering student loan questions or you need more information. And I just want to kick it over to Kira to see if, Kira, you have any final thoughts.
No, thank you so much for joining us today. And we are really looking forward to getting your questions. So please try logging into studentaid.gov this afternoon and then bring your questions tomorrow. We'll be here tomorrow if you run into any issues. And thanks for joining us today on this little lunch chat.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kira and AARP. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see everyone tomorrow.